Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I'm 5 minutes late here on a Thursday. And I'd like to do Thursday, Friday this week, if at all possible, because I think I missed an episode in there somewhere. And Mike is in Georgia, of all places, so he cannot join us this week, which is a bummer. But what I wanted to talk about this week is building the Lions draft board. So let's update our ticker here. Building the Lions draft board. Okay, so I was listening to, let me see if I can get the actual name of it up here for us. I was listening to like the Pride of Detroit's one second. There we go. The Pride of Detroit's did a podcast yesterday about way too early Detroit Lions draft targets. And they had Eric Schlitt on, who is, hey, what's up, Donkey Kong? The roster is in some shambles. Please elaborate. Oh, that's so good. So they had Eric Schlitt on, who is maybe the football content creator, scout, podcaster, author, journalist that I respect the most currently. And he gave his thoughts on targets in the first and second round and what he thought the three positions that were in the Lions were in the most need of. And of course, this is prior to free agency. The roster is going to expand up to 90 players. And we don't know who's even not going to be on the roster next year, let alone who is going to be on the roster. So we know that Dan Skipper, newly coach Skipper, will not be on the roster. So there is a need for, at the very least, offensive tackle number 3 or the 6th offensive lineman, if you want to describe it that way. Taylor Decker could still retire. There's been no news on the potential of a Frank Ragnow return this offseason, and that's looking more and more unlikely, which is unfortunate. So how do the Lions fill these holes? So one way that we can start to try and put something together is by trying to create a draft board that we think the Detroit Lions are likely to employ. Now, one thing that every mock draft site does, whether it's NFL Mock Draft Database, Pro Football Focus, NFL Draft Network, I'm probably forgetting a bunch of other really good sites, is they come up with what they call a consensus board, right? So all mock draft big boards where they rank players by overall talent and projected talent within the position groups are subjective. They are opinions based upon whomever created them, right? And so we try and take some of the subjectivity out of that by combining all of those into one large, quote unquote, consensus big board. And that gives us at least an idea of how teams would look at the overall talent level of these players in any particular draft class. However, we all also know that no NFL team employs the consensus draft board. They have their own scouts. They have their own NFL draft departments within the teams. So let's try and figure out the Detroit Lions board. It's vital Brad gets a top free agent center and a round 1 tackle. amongst many other moves he must hit on. Should be very, very interesting. So I think Donkey Kong has hit on two of the key things that the Lions need to figure out this cycle is that the offensive line, right? So Eric Schlitt echoed this exact same sentiment. Like at their core, the Lions need to have a top 10, top 5 offensive line in the NFL in order for their offense to function the way that they want it to keep Jared Goff safe and able to minimize turnovers. You know, one of the things that he does relatively well. So the free agent, let's tackle this first, then we'll segue into the tackle discussion. Free agent centers. I think there are several the Lions could look at. We've discussed one or two of them before, but let's rehash. I think the one that I would target if the dominoes fall that way would be Connor McGovern if he is not re-signed in Buffalo. And the reason I say that is that he has the height, weight, speed build that the Lions like to employ in their offensive linemen, which is to say very, very large. I have heard a lot of fans think that the Lions should take a run at Tyler Linderbaum from Baltimore. And I can't think of a center in the NFL who makes less sense for the Detroit Lions than Tyler Linderbaum. He is the opposite of what McGovern or Linderbaum, Donkey Kong. Tyler Linderbaum is the opposite of what the Detroit Lions want to do at the center position, in my opinion. He is smaller. He is, I could look it up, I suppose, but I think that he's just a little bit north of 300 pounds. Tyler Linderbaum. And the Lions like players who are larger than the average for the position group. So Tyler Linderbaum is 6'2", 305 pounds. Okay, McGovern. Frank Ragnow, I believe, was something like 6'5", 330. I'll see if PFF still has him in the... Yeah, okay. Frank Ragnow was listed at 6'5", 310. That doesn't make any sense. So maybe I'm wrong. But I'll look up Connor McGovern. (6'5", 318). So I do think the Lions trend toward larger, stronger offensive linemen as opposed to lighter, faster offensive linemen. Not to say that they couldn't start to go that route. Penei Sewell is certainly both large and fast, but Decker is big and powerful. Tate Ratledge is big and powerful, and they can do some of the movement things, but they can also move a guy off of a spot, right? And that's what the Lions want. They want offensive linemen who are capable of physically moving defensive linemen away from where those defensive linemen want to be. So to me, McGovern fits that role, that model, to a much higher degree than Linderbaum does. So, however, I do think that Connor McGovern is going to get top dollar for if he enters free agency. So remember, we have a new coaching staff in Buffalo, and they are not tied to any of the particular players on that roster. And Buffalo does have some cap issues. So they might look to, quote unquote, bring in their guys and let some of their veterans go. So Connor McGovern is currently 29. He is making $7.4 million a year. I think he's probably going to ask for near the top of the position money, which is something like 17, 18, 19 million dollars a year for a center. It's pretty pricey. So if you want to go with a player that you are confident in their abilities to play the position, which I think Detroit should probably be targeting, quote unquote, proven NFL talent, as opposed to, well, we're going to draft a guy and then develop him. You can still do that, but he should be like the plan in case the starter is hurt, type of situation. So if you sign Connor McGovern, then your offensive line, and let's just assume the worst. Your offensive line looks like left tackle, Christian Mahogany, Connor McGovern, Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell. Okay, that's pretty solid. So another name that I have heard is Cade Mays, from, I believe he's most recently played in Carolina. Center needs to be a vet. It just has to be. So are you saying that because of the way that the season went this last year? Because we had a vet at center this last year, right? Or are you just concerned that if they draft a rookie, he won't be quote unquote up to speed in time for the Lions to have this upcoming season, meet expectation, So if Taylor Decker does not retire, great. But I believe that he does not have any guaranteed money left on his deal. Oh, the ads. 2026, they would pay him $21 million. He has no guaranteed money left on that deal. If they cut him before June 1st, they take a $9.4 million cap hit and save $11.6 million. If they designate him a cut after June 1st, it's a $3.1 million dead cap hit, and it's almost $18 million in savings. So the Lions, I believe, are currently over the cap. Yes, they are $8.5 million over the cap as of the last time that over the cap calculated the cap numbers for all the teams. We want Decker to retire. Interesting. Do you think that the Lions want Decker to retire? Because I think that's the more prevalent talking point, right? Is would the Lions prefer he retire? So I've heard a lot about potential cap space that teams can create. And this is cap space that is generated by extending players and spreading out guaranteed money. I hope the Lions want Decker to retire. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that if he was healthy and he didn't have the shoulder problem, it would have been a different story this last year with his play, obviously. But I think that he was hurt too much and too long this season. So we'll have to see. Like, once you start contemplating retirement, I don't think it takes too long to retire. But and then the Lions can restructure a bunch of contracts to create cap space, and they're going to have to make some because they have to get under the cap. It's going to cost $10 million to get your practice squad. It's going to cost $10 to $12 million to sign your rookie class. So that's $22 million plus 8 is $30 million that they're basically over on the cap right now with known expenses that they're going to have. And but they are going to roll over something like $20 million in unused cap space from the 2025 season. So really, it takes care of your rookie class and your practice squad and what you saved last year. So you're like $10 million in the hole. The Lions typically like to carry between $20 and $30 million heading into the season for things like player elevations off the practice squad, potential signings or trade They want versatility. They want flexibility. So I would imagine that they're going to hold true to that. Let's say they split the difference and they want to go in with $25 million. Now you got to free up $35 million. Well, so you're going to have to re-sign players like on the back end of your roster, like Avonte Maddox, that guys like that. And those contracts, like the vet minimum stuff, are always like 1 year, $1 million. And so if they sign, they've got 54 guys on roster today, and if you walk in, so you're going to lose one of those guys. So like you're going to have to sign something like 6 to 10 of them just to fill out the roster with like playable, players who can play. Rocky Ya-Sin, Avonte Maddox, Zach Cunningham, guys like that. So you're going to need free agency money, re-sign people money, So you're going to have to restructure somebody, right? So the number one guy to restructure this year is Jared Goff because he makes the most on the team by a pretty wide margin. They're going to pay him almost $70 million this year. His cap hit is almost $70 million. So they can restructure up to $40 million of that 70. So let's say they did all 40. Well, now you're looking pretty good, right? Now you got your re-sign player money and you've got your go into the season money, right? So if they restructure Goff and maybe restructure like Amon-Ra St. Brown, then I think that you probably have enough money to do what the Lions typically do in the offseason, which is not much. They sign a free agent or two. They sign their practice squad. They have a cadre of rookies that come in, and that's about it. And they rarely make trades, and they rarely make big splashes in free agency. Now, I would think that going out and signing Connor McGovern is going to have to be like a day one free agency move, and very close to what they did with DJ Reed last year. So, I would do that. I think that that's a good move, like for the long-term health of the team. Salary cap is going up more than expected. It's like the third or fourth year in a row that has happened. So I think it's a bump of 22 million. So that's going to help the Detroit Lions with flexibility. And it's always nice when your budget's bigger than you expected, right? And there are players on this roster right now that are not going to be there next year. And I think that some of them are veterans. Some of them are, I think Alex Anzalone is probably not long for the roster. He had a contract disagreement with the Lions coming into this last season, which they solved for not much money. He is over 30, although I think that he's not much over 30. I wouldn't say that I've seen his play drop off precipitously, but like I do think it's an area you could upgrade on, through either free agency or the draft. DJ Reader is another name that I keep hearing will not be back with the Lions. Like there has to be a spot for Tyleik Williams. And if you didn't draft Tyleik Williams to replace, to fill in for Lee McNeil and then replace DJ Reader, I don't know why he was drafted. So if the Lions feel comfortable giving Reader's snaps to Williams, that might be all the impetus they need to let DJ Reader hit free agency, right? So let's look at DJ Reader. So he's 32. He's been with Detroit, I think, 2 years. He is an unrestricted free agent. This is the first of his void years on his the contract that he signed with Detroit. So they are going to pay him $3.7 million in dead money to not be on the team this year. So I always hate that, but it's only just for this next year. And then he doesn't cost you anything against the cap, at least. So Alex Anzalone, DJ Reader, Dan Skippard retired. Taylor Decker may retire. Khalif Raymond, I believe his contract is up. If they re-signed him, I would imagine it would be for just his ability to play special teams, which means that he might leave to find an opportunity with another team that would let him at least see offensive snaps. Like my first thought would be the New York Jets, like upgrading like a punt return. I don't know who their punt returner is, but like Khalif Raymond is not too long removed from being an all-pro punt returner, and depth at wide receiver, in a veteran presence, for a team that is going to have a lot of incoming rookies. Makes a lot of sense. Alex Anzalone in New York makes a lot of sense. Like former defensive coordinator, coaches there, veteran presence, probably won't. I think they have a lot of money to play around with. Yeah, they have $83 million to spend. So they could probably give him just a little bit more money. I wouldn't be surprised to see DJ Reader, in Detroit or in New York. Like they traded, what is their defensive tackle's name? They traded to Dallas. Doesn't matter, cheap defensive veteran that does one thing really well that all teams wants to do, which is to stop the run. All those guys might end up as Jets, and okay, that's not I don't think that's bad. The Lions can then rebuild through the draft. And here's something that I think the Lions should be doing more of with their draft picks. And that is make your second round pick, make your third round pick, have those be like good players, but have them effectively be backups, right? So like right now, Detroit has an issue at safety, right? Brian Branch has the Achilles injury. Kirby Joseph has some degenerative knee issue that could cost him his career. We thought we had the safety position locked down. Well, we don't, so like fate laughed at that idea. So do the Lions spend a day two pick on a safety? Okay, so like let's say you took AJ Halsey from LSU, and you re-sign Avonte Maddox, and like Kirby and Branch aren't playing right off the bat. Those guys come in, they're your starting safeties, and then Branch comes back and like Halsey goes to the bench. Okay, that's fine. Another name that may not be back with the team, Amik Robertson. He's played well enough both at nickel and at outside corner to, I think, warrant teams being like, yeah, okay, we'll give you a chance. Like he might be a Tennessee Titan, next year. And they're like, we're going to give you a chance to start at outside corner for us. And he might get like a 3-year, $21 to $30 million deal, and because he's 27 or 28 and he's probably got one mid-sized contract left before he starts hitting a bunch of vet minimums to stay in the league. So the Lions have not shown a willingness to pay guys they don't consider to be pillars. There's really only 2 contracts that they've handed out that I think are not like your future is secure with the team. And that was they paid Derek Barnes $8 million a year, and they paid Jameson Williams like top 15 wide receiver money. But I don't know that it was enough to say you're a pillar of the team. So what I'm going to do is to kind of continue to talk about these moves in context is I'm going to do a mock draft because I love mock drafts. So I want to thank Detroit Fan Man once again for turning or making me aware of mockdrafthero.com. This site is awesome. Number one, it's free. So if you like free stuff, here you go. And it lets you use 4 different mock draft boards. So right now, this is the NFL mock draft database. But you can also use Pro Football Focus, Draft Tech Sports, and Pro Football Network. So those are 4 of the big ones. And you can do trades, and trades will be offered to you. So it has the functionality of everything I like in a mock draft board. Okay, so we're going to make these picks go a little faster. We're going to choose the Detroit Lions. And so, the topic of the show today is building the Lions draft board. So real quickly, what I think that looks like is the Lions have a bucket of players. They go into each draft thinking these guys fit our culture. They fit what we need to add to the field, both short term and long term. And they're talented enough to warrant being picked in the round that we have draft picks. So, so we're going to talk about them as they come up. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Or everyone leave the chat. Either way, that's fine too. So Eric Schlitt on the podcast I listened to yesterday proposed that there are up to 8 tackles in the first round that the Lions might be interested in. Okay, so the draft went as such. So Francis Mauigoa, the G is pronounced as an N. I don't know why. Number 3 overall to the Cardinals. All right. Spencer Fano went number 6 to the Browns. Caden Proctor went number 12 to the Cowboys. And then as far as edge players the Lions would be interested in, Ruben Bain is very clearly not in range. Who's the other guy? Keldrick Falk went to the Ravens, and TJ Parker went to the Bucks. So the board looks like players that I think the Lions that are in the Lions bucket in round 1 with the way that this board fell are Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State, Caleb Lomu, tackle from Utah, Akeem Mesidor, edge from Miami, and Monroe Freeling, tackle from Georgia. Okay, so right now, the pick, if you wanted to stick and pick, I think the pick would be Sonny Styles. And a couple of reasons. Number 1, he's my prospect crush. I have a crush on the guy as a football player. I think if you put him next to Jack Campbell, you have maybe the most dynamic linebacker pairing in the NFL game 1 next season. And in order to win Super Bowls, we just saw 2 teams that have good quarterback play, but not exceptional quarterback play. But they both do something extremely well, and that was play defense. But make it to the Super Bowl. And so I think Detroit has a path to that if they can make themselves exceptional in one area or another. So that's what we're going to be trying to do today. So if we were to trade the pick, we can get we could trade down for 43 and get a first rounder next year. I don't think that's good for us. We can move down to 29 and pick up a 1, 2, and 3. I do kind of like that. Or we can move down to 27 and pick up a second round pick. So here's the problem. If we move down to 27, we're going to miss out on Sonny Styles, Lomu, and I'm going to guess Freeling, which means that Mesidor would be our number 1 pick. And while I like that, because I think that the Lions could be 1 pass rusher away from having an exceptional defense, I don't know that they are 1 pass rusher away from having an exceptional defense. But I do want to pick multiple times in the second. So I have to weigh what I want to do. Is Mesidor plus 2 second-round picks better than, say, Sonny Styles and a second-round tackle? And, I don't even know that the tackles that are going to be there in the second round if you told me that we would get Max Ahenachor from Arizona State, I think that I would make the trade. I don't know that you can though, because I think that he will be off the board by the time that the Lions pick. So let's go back and double check what the trade proposal was. 27 and 58. So 58 and 50 are lower than I lost Donkey Kong. He didn't want to do the mock draft. Are lower than what Freeling is projected, or Ahenachor is projected to go. So I would be looking at somebody like Gabe Yakas from Illinois, defensive end. So if I take the value here, I think it's about making Detroit's defense look better based upon just the way the board fell. So let's just take a look at that. Ugh. Okay, so there goes Zion Young, and there goes Messidor at 25. Lomu's off the board. There goes Freeling. So all of our targets went in the first round, even though they were projected to go. Most of them were projected to go in round 2. So can we get? There goes Blake Miller. So can we get Ahenachor at 50? Oh, Overton even went. Holy cow. Getting close. Oh, and we made it. Okay, so we're going to take Max Ahenachor from Arizona State. So we got, in the first round, we got good value pick. Now we have maybe the best linebacker pairing in the NFL. And we got a starting caliber left tackle. We were lucky to get a starting caliber left tackle at 50. Okay. So now the Lions, they don't have a third round pick because this pick went to, I believe this pick went to Isaac TeSlaa. Why else wouldn't we have a third round pick? Was this? Can't remember. But this is the Lions. This is the meat of the Lions draft right here. Is the first and the second round. Those are the guys that are probably going to start. And even if Decker remains with the team this upcoming season, like taking Ahenachor is fine. Like he plays the Dan Skipper role, he gets acclimated, and then if and when Decker wants to retire, he either becomes the right or left tackle, probably the left tackle. I was going to say if Keelan Rutledge was still there, I was going to snap him up. I hope that Chandler Rivers is still there when we pick. Oh, and he is top of the board again. So we're getting pretty lucky here, to be honest. So we're going to get the 99th player at pick 118. I wouldn't mind Justin Joly here with the new 13 personnel look that I think Drew Petzing is going to want to run. But I'm going to take the value here and replace what I am going to consider Amik Robertson to not be on the team until I know that he is. And I'm going to take a replacement for nickel corner. So now we're going to, 118. So what is this? 30 something picks. 37 picks. So our next pick is at 155. And so now we're into day 3. I'm just looking for players that, I love Caden Curry. Such a good pick by Philadelphia. So like, I'm looking for tight ends. There's a couple that I want that I think would fit the Lions very well. I am looking for solid depth players, edge, defensive tackle, guard, center is also a possibility. Oh, it's our pick. It's our pick. Do what you're gonna do. Let's just see who's available here. Pat Coogan is somebody that we could take. That's a center. So like in this scenario, I think that Connor McGovern's been signed by the Lions. So now our team looks something like a Hennichor, Christian Mahogany, McGovern, Ratledge, Sewell. And then we have taken and Rivers. Okay. Could take a safety. Could take a. I don't know the next time the Lions pick. So do I want to take a safety, a backup center, or a tight end? There's lots of tight ends on the board right now. I think I'm going to take the safety. High IQ defender with elite instincts and a relentless competitive streak, qualities that helped him rise from a non-scholarship player to a top prospect. His strengths include tackling reliability and positional flexibility. He was often noted more for his grit and leadership than raw physical tools. Well, that just sounds like a Detroit Lion. Anytime anybody uses the word grit anymore, I think that, oh, that's probably a good Detroit Lion. All right, so now I'm interested in tight ends. Can we get a tight end prospect that fits? Some of them are starting to go. Scooby Williams, what a great name. Okay, we're on the board. Is that guy that I want from A&M. So this guy, Nate Boerkirker, 6'4", 250. Basketball-like athleticism. Highlights his technical proficiency as a blocker and his utility as a situational receiver. Highly dependable. Scouts know that he could benefit from increasing his explosive playmaking potential in a more vertical passing game. Well, that is not, the Lions are not a vertical passing game. So, but taking a good sized tight end that can block, that is on the radar. So we're going to do that. Okay, so now what do we do? We could still take Coogan. Let's do that. So they lost Kingsley Aguyakun to the Browns. He was signed off the practice squad. So let's take a dedicated backup center. Not like a guy that we're developing, like a guy that has played center and did it for years at a Big Ten program. You know, basically it's like a not fuck around pick. You know, like Giovanni Manu we're fucking around. Like, let's trade a future pick to take this project, right? No, let's not do that. Let's get a guy that knows what he's doing. For his time in Indiana, he spent 5 years at Wisconsin, where he transitioned from linebacker to fullback and tight end to become a versatile special teams leader. Nowakowski is highly regarded for his Swiss Army knife utility and disciplined blocking, making him a reliable asset in the screen game and short yardage packages. However, his lack of high-end vertical speed and limited production as a traditional downfield receiver are noted as potential weaknesses. So I don't care about any of that. Like, I think Detroit wants the kind of like, is he a fullback? Is he a tight end? Can you put him out? Like, can he catch and get a 5-yard reception? You know, can he block in the screen game? Like, can he chip on a down lineman? Like, you know, those kinds of things that I think the Lions are going to value, 5 to 10 plays a game, and then if he's a core special teamer, like, great. Like I think the Lions would love a core special teamer, considering they have drafted guys just to be special teamers. Like Sione Vaki is a special team only player. So, okay. So who do we still have on the? I'm going to take Drew Aller here. I fully expect that Kyle Allen is on the team next year, but Drew Aller, if he hadn't gotten hurt and Penn State hadn't had such a terrible season unexpectedly this year, like would have been a first round talent. Like the talent didn't go anywhere, the team imploded. So like if the Lions talk to the kid and it's like, oh, what's going on? Like they could still sit him for 2 years and like work on his mechanics, give him all of the reps in the preseason, give him all of the reps. And like anytime that Jared Goff doesn't need a rep, they can give it to this guy and develop him to see if you have a starter level QB, if in the eventuality that if Goff was injured, if there's a contract dispute, if the Lions deem they have to move on from Jared Goff at some point, like at least you're building in the cushion, right? So here's the teams, Lions. All right. So here's our draft. We went Sonny Styles, Max Ahenachor, Chandler Rivers, Michael Taft, Nate Boerkircher, Pat Coogan, Riley Nowakowski, and Drew Aller. So I love this for Detroit. So let's just kind of review just real quick. You put this guy, Sonny Styles has been compared to Fred Warner, who's arguably the best tight end or linebacker in football. So if you put Sonny Styles next to Jack Campbell, and these two guys hit their primes anywhere near at the same time, the Lions could have the best linebacking tandem in the NFL for like 4 to 5 years. And anytime that you can do something that's just better than every other team in the NFL, you should do it. And so I think this is one player that makes, arguably not the most impactful position group into something that it's like those are two impact players that other teams are going to have to account for. Good. I like that. Okay, Max Ahenachor, pretty much a left tackle only up until this point in his career. I like that because then you can keep Penei Sewell at right tackle, where I think he's probably a Hall of Famer. And if this guy works out, it's great. You spend a top 50 pick on a guy to replace Taylor Decker. Chandler Rivers plugging in for Meek Robertson, same height, weight, speed, same kind of grit, plays above their like physical stature type of situation. A backup safety, so if they re-sign Avonte Maddox and Kirby Joseph can't start the season, this guy can be a starter for you and a backup and special teamer when Kirby Joseph or Brian Branch can play. Nate Boerkircher, a primary blocker at tight end, good sized body, can participate in the passing game. Same thing with Riley Nowakowski. So now you have, the Lions were playing 3 third-string tight ends at the end of last season. So if you get Laporta and Brock right back, and then Boerkircher is your third and Nowakowski is your fourth, then I think that room looks pretty solid. Pat Coogan, you were a starting center for 2 years on what ended up being a national championship team. You are the backup to Connor McGovern in Detroit. You're going to get your shot at some point. And then Drew Aller, a first round, in my opinion, if you ask other NFL people, like I think that they would say the same thing as well. Like he is a first round talent that saw his stock drop as precipitously as anybody in modern NFL history. Can you figure out what went wrong with the kid and fix it? And so I think this is the kind of draft that the Lions should be open to. We're going to do another one to see what else we can do. But since there's no one in the chat, I'm just going to go and get some water real quickly, and then I'll be right back. Ugh. So good. Okay, let's see what this draft has offered us so far. Okay, Mendoza, Reese, Maury, that all makes sense. McCoy and Fano, David Bailey, Makai Lemon, Kendrick Falk. Down, Sonny Styles is off the board in this one. Okay, so it's different. Okay, so who do we have? We've got Caden Proctor, TJ Parker, Akeem Messidor. All right. So I think the thing to do here is to figure out whether or not we want Caden Proctor. So Kansas City is willing to come back up, and we have to trade down to pick 40, but we get Kansas City's first round pick next year. I hate this trade for the Lions. We miss out on all of the people that we want, and we don't know what Kansas City pick is going to look like next year. Okay, this pick might work. So the Philly wants to come up 6 spots. It might be for Proctor. We would pick up a 3rd round pick. We don't have a 3rd round pick. I like this pick better. We would drop 3 picks and pick up a 4th rounder. But I think that Dallas wants Proctor. Maybe Jeremiah Love. If we didn't take Proctor, who would we take at 20? Caleb Lomu's there. Akeem Messidor. Freeling. We would be overdrafting all of those players. Is that worth it just to get a pick 112? I really don't like any of these picks or these trades. I like Philadelphia as the best. I think we're just going to stick and draft Proctor. So the issue with Proctor is, are his feet fast enough and can he maintain his weight? You're going to have to get answers on both of those questions before you draft him. So I don't know. I mean, he's got the height, weight, speed the Lions look for. Zion Young going off the board here is a real problem. That is a bummer. Oh, and there goes the Hennichor. Shit. And Scott. Well, this didn't break how I wanted. Okay, so the guy that Eric Schlitt says he'd be interested in is Gabe Yakas from Illinois. Okay, so let's take a look at Yakas here. 6'2", 275. Okay, good. 21, good. He had 8 sacks. So this last season. Oh, in 2024. He possesses elite burst off the line and a powerful pass rush repertoire, making him a consistent threat to the quarterback. And he finished his college career second in the Illinois program with 27 career sacks. So let's just say it's 9 sacks a year for 3 years. Eric Schlitt described this guy as Marcus Davenport without the injury history. And I guess I'm just kind of here for it, to be honest. Like, it's we are overdrafting that guy by quite a bit, but I really don't see another player, AJ Halsey perhaps, who I like more than Gabe Yakas when it comes to what the Lions want to do. So if they want to continue with this kind of like crush the pocket philosophy on defense, then like Yakas is a guy that will do that. And anybody that can help Aiden Hutchinson is probably a guy that the Lions should, look at adding to the team in very real terms. So even though that's overdrafted and the Lions would be criticized by like Pro Football Focus and CBS Sports and other agencies like that, I think that it's probably a good idea to go and get the right fit, the quote unquote their guy, right? That's what that means. And the tight ends are coming off the board now. That bothers me because it does mean that I think that the Lions are giving up value by drafting him where they drafted him, but also they didn't have a 3rd round pick, which means that they didn't have, he's probably not likely to make it to their 3rd round pick, and they didn't have that pick to trade to come back up in the second to get him that way either. So they're limited twice, basically. Okay, so now the Lions are back on the board at pick 118. We've got, let's take a look at this kid, Kyle Lewis. 5'11", 225. That sounds like a safety to me, not a linebacker. So it's a will linebacker. Lewis is widely recognized for his versatility, having demonstrated the ability to impact games as an elite pass rusher and a reliable coverage defender with a knack for forcing turnovers. His primary strengths as a prospect are his explosive closing speed and elite production, having amassed over 20 career tackles for loss. So, he sounds like Brian Branch, right? Like the kind of close to the offensive line player. But this guy, I think, is where we're going to end up. So, Oscar Delp from Georgia, 6'5", 245. His main strength is his improved run blocking, which he excelled at this season, though his receiving production and separation ability in the passing game have been inconsistent. I don't care. I'm going to draft him for his blocking ability. Because I think the Lions are going to need that if they're going to play 13 personnel, and like, what is the status of Laporta? What is the status of Kirby Joseph? What is the status of Brian Branch? Guys like that. Like Laporta had a fully herniated disc in his back / spine. So, like herniated discs are no joke, and there was Caden Curry again, which is a real bummer because I love Caden Curry. So the problem is that the Lions have a lot of guys on their rookie deals, or I should say they have important guys on their rookie deals, Branch and Laporta, who had season-ending injuries, and you don't know what they look like yet after their injuries. So I think that building in some redundancy to the position groups makes a lot of sense. Let's take a look at this kid, Josh Cameron. 6'1", 224. That's big. So we could take a linebacker. All 3 of these guys are pretty good linebackers. We have not taken a guy in the defensive backfield, nor is there one to take right here. Let's look at Lander Barton, 6'3", 236. He is lauded for his sideline-to-sideline range and high-level IQ, which stems from a deep family pedigree of professional athletes. While he excels as a personnel chameleon due to his athleticism, scouts have noted he sometimes needs to improve his consistency in shedding blocks against power run schemes. All right. What about Bocher? He is lauded for his hard-nosed physicality, high-volume tackling ability, and impressive performance in pass protection. What? His impressive performance in pass protection drills. Must be getting off of pass protection. He sounds like a middle linebacker. So that's not what the Lions are after. What about this guy? Fisher, 6'1", 230. His elite diagnostic skills and sideline-to-sideline range, those scouts occasionally monitor his performance against heavy power. So it sounds like 2 of these 3 guys have a problem against like power run schemes, and the NFL is heading more toward a power running game. So we'll take the guy that doesn't have the problem. Okay, so at this point, we would be looking at interior offensive line and secondary help. So one of the linebackers is still there. Tight end, interior offensive line. Okay, so I'm going to take this kid, Golbin from MSU. 6'4", 312. Let's right around. I swear to God, I saw somewhere that Frank Ragnow played at like 330. Okay, anyways. He plays for the Spartans. Gross. Let's see. Prior to transferring, Golbin was an honorable mention at Wake Forest, where he played 800 snaps and allowed one sack. His strengths include elite pass blocking technique and high football IQ required to lead an offensive line's pre-snap adjustments. Although he has spent most of his career at guard, his successful move to center significantly bolstered his draft stock by demonstrating valuable positional flexibility. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to hit this button. All right, so welcome to Detroit, Max Golbin. So a dedicated backup center. Oh, we're going to pick again here. 187. Okay. So I'm going to take Marlon Klein from Michigan, another tight end. I watched him play his entire collegiate career. More of a wide receiver than a tight end, but like it might be nice in some of these looks to have a defense be like, well, we have to pay attention to this kid blocking or leaking out to catch a pass. He's big, 6'5", 6'6". Good hands. I like him. Okay. Jalen, let's look at Jaden Ryan. Let's look at who we've picked so far. Caden Proctor, Gabe Yakus, Oscar Delp, Lander Barton, Max Golbin, Marlon Klein. So this is our last pick. Let's look at Jaden Roberts. 6'5", 310. They do not say much. Is highly regarded for his elite functional strength and pass blocking efficiency, noting 0 sacks across several high-profile conference matchups. As like a 6th round pick, I don't really have a problem with just taking a guy that fits the height, weight, speed, and has some upside. So let's do that. And then I think that we do have another pick. This kid, Chase Roberts, just got indicted for rape, I believe. Like as of today. So he's not going to get drafted. I'll take Hemby from Indiana. They lost Craig Reynolds. It's a 7th round running back. He can at least compete with Jacob Sawyers and Kyle Riochet, I think his name is. Risho. I don't know how to say it. To be like the 3rd and 4th running backs in that room now, or I guess technically 4th, even though Vaki doesn't play running back. Let's go. All right, so our picks this draft looks like we addressed Caden Proctor. We addressed tackle by drafting Caden Proctor. We got a replacement for Marcus Davenport. Oscar Delp to help that new 13 personnel look that Petzing going to want to run. Lander Barton as a, compete with Malcolm Rodriguez, special teamer maybe, backup center, a receiving threat for the tight end room. A guard that I think will have a hard time beating out Miles Frazier, and then a running back. So this is a very top-heavy class, I think. Like Proctor and Yakis are the guys. Yakis are the guys that I think are going to make their mark on the Lions this year. So if you had an offensive line that was Caden Proctor, Christian Mahogany, Connor McGovern, Tate Ratledge, Penny Sewell, I think that you'd be pretty happy with that. And then a defensive line that consisted of Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, a year removed from the ACL, Tyleek Williams, not DJ Reader, and Gabe Yakis. I think I like the sound of that, although I'm a little bit iffy on Williams. And we did nothing to address our secondary, but the tight end room would then look like Sam Laporta, Brock Wright. What was the guy that we took? Oscar Delp and Marlon Klein. Then we took a backup center. We took a depth guard and a running back. I mean, I think that gets the Lions closer to where they want to be. I'm going to do one more just kind of for fun. Oh, hang on. Okay. Oh, my God. So nobody drafted wide receivers in this one. What happened? Mendoza, Reese, Maui Noah, Bailey, Delane, Spano, Bain, Tate, Falk, Downs, McCod, Avian Terrell. Interesting. Proctor, Ione, Howell, and Ty Simpson. Okay. So that means that, like, let's see. Jeremiah Love, Tyson, and Makai Lemon are all on the board. So in this one, we trade out of round one. I'm going to trade down to 32, and I'm going to hope that we can get Freeling with the way the board is falling here. There goes Lomu. There goes Mesidor. Okay, this worked out pretty well. So now I traded down, and I'm going to draft Monroe Freeling. He's my new left tackle. So we're still going to pick at 50, but now we picked up another second-round pick and a third-round pick, which we didn't have. Ooh, Keontae Scott went. So, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. For the science of it, I'm going to take Max Ahenachor as well. And I know that sounds weird, but Dan Skipper, Taylor Decker, they both retired. Well, Taylor Decker hasn't retired yet, but Skipper did. So, worst case scenario, you have one of two guys, probably Freeling, that will replace Decker. The other guy replaces Skipper. And then you have a guy who can step in for one of the two tackles if they were to get hurt, which I think is smart. And then if maybe you run 13 personnel, but one of the sixth tackle, let's say it's Ahenachor, counts as a tight end. So now you've got, if you went something like your offensive line, so Freeling, Mahogany, McGovern, Ratledge, Sewell, and then your tight end group was Ahenachor in everything but name, or in name only, Laporta and Brock Wright all out on the field. So that's 8 guys. 9 is Goff. And then you say, let's say you put Isaac TeSlaa out there. He's like a fourth huge body. And then, Gibbs. You have technically 3 receiving threats in Laporta, TeSlaa, and Gibbs. You could run the ball, and I cannot believe that you wouldn't be able to get good blocks based upon the size of the offensive personnel. And then if Gibbs makes one guy miss, it's all over. So here I'm going to take Halsey because I don't know what nickel corner or safety looks like to start the season next year. So now we have a 3rd round pick. Will there be an edge player? Nope. Nope, there won't. All right. So, and that's fine. Anthony Lucas. Let's read about him. Let's see. Lucas is highly regarded as an elite raw power and ability to set a firm edge against the run. Traits that made him a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. While his disruption at the point of attack is a clear strength, scouts are looking for more consistent pass rush refinement to fully unlock his high ceiling potential. So if I want a guy that's like, this guy does what Marcus Davenport does, but maybe just like doesn't rush as well, I could take him. I could take another safety, Genesis Smith. He projects as a smooth, explosive back half defender whose ceiling is high due to his physicality, athleticism, and ability to close quickly on the ball carrier in open space. So he sounds like a Brian Branch-esque type. Devin Moore, corner. Draft profile is highlighted by his raw physical range and effectiveness at the line of scrimmage. Though his medical history remains a primary concern, he proved his reliability in his final campaign by appearing in all 11 games, holding his high-profile opponents to minimal production and coverage. So a guy who's hurt all the time and sounds like a Detroit Lion. I'm going to take this kid, Dalen Everett, I think. Everett projects as a physical and reliable man coverage corner whose biggest strength is his proven consistency in locking down opponents in high-stake games. Yeah, okay. So if the pass rush can't get home quick and the Lions does not, you have to be able to defend on the back end. So in this class, we've taken AJ Halsey and Dalen Everett to be those guys, right? Okay, I'm going to take Jake Slaughter to be a backup center. Kevin Coleman is somebody that I could see replacing Khalif Raymond. Oh, if Caden Curry's on the board, I'm drafting Caden Curry. Made it past the Eagles. God damn it! Stupid fucking Jets. Fucking Jets. I'm going to take this kid, Sam Roush. I really like him. Primary blocker, went to Stanford. Going to be good in the tight end room. God, fucking Jets. That kid, Jaden Kennedy, he might be another guy to look at as like a slot receiver for the Lions. Fucking Jets. All right, I'm going to take Lander Barton here. And I'm going to take Joe Royer. And this Joe Royer is just a pass catching tight end. Like, think of him as Sam Laporta Jr. But like, I just think that adding talent to that tight end room is probably real important. And then, Sam Laporta is an accomplished blocker. I've liked Amars Reed Adams for a couple of years now. He decided to go back to school, but I think that he fits the like height, weight, speed stuff that the Lions are looking for. And you're not going to ask him to be a starter. You're just going to ask him to like develop and be like solid depth. All right, let's take a look at Lewis Bond here. Technical route running, reliable hands, high volume centerpiece. So he's Amon-Ra St. Brown-esque. Oh, DJ Campbell's on the board. Oh, I'm going to take this kid, TJ Hall. He went to Iowa, so the Lions will love him. And then he's an outside corner. So, like, we went really heavy on, like, secondary depth in this particular draft. And I think the reason for that is there's a lot of unknowns in the secondary. So, like, the Lions have dedicated a lot of resources to the secondary over the last 2 years. They made the trade for Carlton Davis. That was a third rounder. They signed Amik Robertson, and then they drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw in that class, right? And so then this last year, they signed DJ Reed, and then they brought in Avonte Maddox and Rock Ya-Sin as backups. Okay, so in this class, I took AJ Halsey, Dalen Everett, and TJ Hall. Okay, so I think Halsey is a starter, whether that's at nickel or at safety. Let's say it's at safety. Dalen Everett and TJ Hall are guys that are going to compete as outside cornerback depth. And then I think you put Ennis Rakestraw as your nickel backup. And so then now I think, like, if you have worst case scenario, what does that look like? The start of the season might look like Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed, and then let's say we're playing a nickel package. The safeties would be like Avonte Maddox, AJ Halsey, and then either Ennis Rakestraw or Dalen Everett in the nickel. So I am anticipating that Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch do not start the season, and then Amik Robertson signed somewhere else. Now, let's look at the upside of this. If it looks like Kirby Joseph can play, then your nickel package would look something like Kirby Joseph and Avonte Maddox, Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed, and then Halsey's in the slot. And then you would have Dalen Everett, TJ Hall, Ennis Rakestraw as depth, cost-controlled depth on the roster. And then if, Amik might still be there, possibility. But then I think guys like Nick Whiteside, Thomas Harper, Lauren Strickland, like, they're let go. And you restart with younger players who are healthy and cost controlled for like 4 years. So then what else did we do? We went backup center, tight ends for the new tight end room, and a guy that I think might make the roster, but maybe even a practice squad player. So what we don't have any of here is pass rush, right? So if we're not going to get a pass rusher here, which I made the choice to take a Hennichor over a potential pass rusher, I did that because now I think the Lions have taken 2 shots at replacing Decker as opposed to 1. And if the line is as important as everybody makes it out to be in Detroit, then you need to have this thing solved. And so, worst case scenario, like you have a replacement for Decker and Skipper immediately, and you don't have to change where Penny Sewell's playing. Best case scenario, I mean, worst case scenario, one of the two doesn't work out and the other one does. Or I guess worst case scenario would be they both don't work out. Right. But then at least you've taken 2 shots at it, you know. And I think that's the most that we could hope for as fans for the Lions, you know, this upcoming season. So, all right, I'm going to be back tomorrow as well, I think, just to try and stave off boredom and talk to you guys. And maybe I'll do a review of like some of the stuff that's happened over at Pride of Detroit. So anyways, hope you guys are safe and warm, and I will see you tomorrow.